in so many different ways in Excel. And of course, Excel offers these features because you want to make sure your data is input correctly in the spreadsheet. So one of the things we can do is copy the data just in the cell above. I have a spreadsheet open, and let's say I want to copy the information in the cell above G7 down into G8. Well, there's a simple keyboard shortcut for this. I hold down my Control key and I hit the quote key. Notice that formula that is in cell G7, E7 times F7, shows up in here, and if I hit enter, then it shows up into my cell and I have the same information. I have the formula. Now sometimes I'm copying information down and I don't want the formula. I just want the value. So let me take this out of my sheet, and this time instead of Control quote, I'm going to do Control and the Shift key and the quote. Notice this time what shows up in my cell is the actual value, and I can click enter and come off of there, but when I put my active cell back on cell G7 and I look at the formula bar, the number is all that's there. So I can use the Ctrl+Shift quote to bring the value down. I can use the Control quote to copy anything from the cell above. For example, I'll come over here and just show you I can do Control quote here. This isn't a formula, so it'll bring down the number. It brought the formatting too. So those are ways that I can easily copy specific pieces of data. And I'm going to just remove those from my spreadsheet. Another thing I might want to do is move or copy information in my spreadsheet. Now we know about cut, copy, paste. But let's look at another option. Let's look at drag and drop. Works the same as cut and copy and paste, but I'm not using the clipboard here. Let's say I decide I want the position information in a different place on the spreadsheet. So I've highlighted it, and notice when I put my mouse over the border of the highlight, instead of the plus shape, I now have a crosshair with a white arrow on it. This is my drag and drop. So if I click and hold and drag over, I can place it somewhere else in the spreadsheet. And maybe I want to put it after the commission column. So I can put it there and let go, and notice it's no longer in column C, it is now in column H. We know from previous modules that I can remove this column by selecting it, right-clicking, and deleting the column. However, rather than doing that, I'm going to select where I put the position information before, because I can use drag and drop not only to move but to copy. Works the same way. I highlight the range, put my mouse anywhere on the border so I get that crosshair with the pointing arrow. This time I'm going to hold down my Control key while I drag and drop, and you'll notice my little arrow has a plus sign attached to it now. I will drag to where I want it. Here's the real important part. I let go of the mouse first, then the Control key, because the Control key makes it do the copy. Now I have the position information in both places. So you can use drag and drop or Control drag and drop. Control drag and drop will give you the copy. Now I'm just going to get rid of the information that I put in column H because I really don't want it. One of the things that's interesting, I deleted that. But notice that the border that came across with that column is still there. I can, up in my Home tab, click on Home and come all the way over to the editing group in my ribbon, and there is a clear option here. If you're not familiar with this option, it's a wonderful option, because if you click on it, you can clear everything in the cell. You can clear just the formats, just the contents, if you have comments or hyperlinks. Really what I need to do right now is get rid of formats. So I'll just click that, and that border that showed up right here is now gone. Obviously, cut and copy we know we've used before, but let's just look. Let's say I want to move this information over to the February sheet tab. I can copy this using my clipboard or my keyboard shortcut of Control+C, which is the same as copy. I get my moving marquee, and I can go to February and click where I want it to start, and I can paste. We know that, right? Now I'm going to click undo for a moment because I want to show you something else that's fairly neat you can do. Let's say I'm just starting out creating my spreadsheet. So let's pretend I don't have the January sheet tab set up, and let's say February is my first sheet tab. And I want information on February and on March and on quarter one summary. The headings are going to be the same, the formulas are going to be the same. I can select all the sheet tabs that I want to put information in and type that information into all of them at once. So if I click on the February sheet tab and I hold down my Shift key and click on the quarter one summary, notice February, March, and the quarter one summary are all selected. Now if I click in cell A1 and I type, well, let's see, we'll put date here, and I'll do January here and February here. Of course, we know I can use my autofill, don't we? I can grab February and drag across and put in information, and maybe down here I'm going to put, I probably don't want date there. Let's take date out. Let's put sales, and down here we'll put expenses. And of course we know if I have sales and expenses, then my formula is going to be equals B2 minus B3, because I'm going to want to subtract the expenses from the sales. So I'll put that in there. I'll copy that formula over. Of course, at this point we don't have any information, so we're showing zeros. And if I go back, of course I didn't have the January tab selected, but I clicked on it just to deselect. Notice if I click on March, it's got the same information. If I click on quarter one summary, it's got the same information too. So when you're starting out a spreadsheet and you know that between the different sheet tabs you're going to have similar headings, similar formulas, you can set all that up at once by selecting all of the sheet tabs. Now I'm going to go back here. I'll select those three sheet tabs, and the delete's going to work the same way. I'm going to highlight all of that and just delete that information out. And if I go back and I look at the different sheet tabs, the March tab, the quarter one summary tab, that information's gone. Now let's say instead I wanted to use my copy. Some people say, well, can't I copy, paste, and put it across the sheets and hit all the sheet tabs at once? I can type in the cell. Can I copy and paste across the sheet tabs? Not using the paste. We have a fill option that we can use to do this. And there's a little bit of a workaround, but let me walk you through it. So let's say I'm taking this information here on my January sheet tab. I've highlighted it. I'm going to choose copy. So I have my moving marquee. I want to put it on the other sheet tabs. So I'm going to come down, and remember selecting multiple sheet tabs. I'm going to hold down my Shift key and click on quarter one summary. So all of those sheet tabs are selected. I still have my moving marquee. I'm going to come up to my home tab, come all the way to the right to this editing group, and under fill I'll click on the drop down, and I have an across worksheets. So I choose across worksheets, and it says, do I want to fill all of it, or just the contents, or just the formats? Maybe I just want the formatting and I don't need the other information. Maybe I want the contents, maybe I want everything. So I choose which I want, I click OK, and then if I go to the individual sheet tabs, that information has been transferred to each one of them. I didn't use the paste, I used the fill.